One in every four people were emotionally neglected as children. No shouting, no bruises, just emptiness. And that emptiness followed them into every relationship. If you've ever wondered why you feel this way, today we name it. Stay till the end. Sign 4 will shock you. Someone asks you how you feel, and you genuinely do not know. Not because you are shallow, but because you were never taught how to name it. Or the last time you needed help, and instead of asking, you told yourself you will handle it alone. Or the last time someone gave you a compliment, and something inside you immediately dismissed it. That's not a personality trait, that's a sign. Most people think emotional neglect means physical absence, a parent who left, or one who was never there. That's the myth. The reality is this: emotional neglect happens in homes where parents are physically present but emotionally absent. According to research, one in four people grew up in exactly that home without ever having a name for what was missing until today. My name is Samuel Abraham, relationship educator, mentor, author, teaching relationships since 2003, married 20 years this August. This is part 4 of our Breaking the Cycle series. If you have not watched parts 1, 2, and 3, the link is in the description below. Watch those first because today builds directly on everything we have covered so far. Before we go in, drop a comment right now. How many of these 7 signs describe you? Just drop a number as we go through them. 68%. That's how many adults across Africa that never discussed emotions openly in their childhood homes. Not once. Less than 1 in 4 Nigerian adults heard the words I love you regularly from their parents. 23%. Is it any wonder we do not know how to say it either? If you grew up in that silence, this teaching is for you. Sign number 1: you feel like a burden for having needs. Research shows that adults who experienced emotional neglect as children are significantly more likely to apologize for their own needs, treating their emotions as inconveniences to others. You minimize your pain. You say, I am fine when you are completely falling apart. You wait until you are in crisis before you reach out, and even then you apologize for reaching out. Not because you are weak or too sensitive, but because as a child your needs were met with irritation, indifference, cold silence, and you learned something dangerous. My needs are too much. I am too much. That was never true. You were a child with needs, and the adults around you were not equipped to meet them. That is not your fault, but it became your wound. But sign number 2 is the one that confuses people most because it looks like a personality trait, not a wound. Sign 2: you cannot identify what you are feeling. 4 in every 10 adults cannot identify what they are feeling because nobody taught them. Someone asks you, how are you feeling? And you genuinely do not know because nobody ever helped you name your feelings as a child. In your home, feelings were not discussed. They were managed, suppressed, and ignored. So you grew up fluent in everyone else's feelings, always sensing what others need, always adjusting to people's moods, and a complete stranger to your own. Sign number 3 will explain why your internal voice sounds the way it does. Sign 3: you are your own worst critic. Emotionally neglected adults are 3 times more likely to struggle with self compassion. That voice that says you are not enough, you are 3 times more likely to hear it. The voice in your head, the one that says you are not enough, not smart enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough. That voice started in a childhood home where who you were was never quite celebrated, never quite seen, never quite enough. And you internalize that silence as evidence. You told yourself, if the people who are supposed to love me most did not see my value, then maybe I do not have any. That was a lie, but you believed it, and you have been living it since. Sign number 4 is the one nobody expects because from the outside, everything looks fine. Sign number 4: you feel empty even when life looks good. From the outside, your life looks fine. Good job. Decent relationships. No obvious trauma. Nothing you can point to and say, this is why I feel this way. But inside, there is a persistent emptiness, a flatness, a sense that something is missing that you cannot name. That emptiness is not depression. It is not ingratitude or weakness, but the absence of emotional connection that was never provided in childhood. Emotional neglect does not leave visible wounds. It leaves invisible ones. The wound of what was never given, what was never said, what was never felt in a home that looked normal from the outside but felt empty on the inside. Sign number 5 explains something that has probably cost you more than you realize. Sign 5. You struggle to ask for help. Research consistently shows that emotionally neglected children grow into adults who find it uncomfortable to ask for help, even in crisis. You would rather struggle alone than reach out. You tell yourself, I do not want to be a burden. I can handle this myself. I do not want to bother anyone. But the real reason goes deeper than that. As a child, reaching out for emotional support was met with nothing, or worse, with irritation, with dismissal, with the words, you're too sensitive, stop crying, man up, shut up. And your nervous system learned something it never forgot. Reaching out, it's not safe. Handle it alone. And so you did. For years, for decades, alone, when you never had to be. Sign number 6 is the loneliest one and the most misunderstood. Sign number 6. You feel fundamentally different from other people. Not better, not worse, just different. Like you were watching life through a window rather than actually living it. Like everyone else received a manual for how to exist in relationships and yours got lost somewhere. Like you belong nowhere quite completely. This feeling started in a childhood home where your emotional world was never truly entered by the people who should have known you best. You were physically present in your family but emotionally alone. And that aloneness followed you throughout your childhood into every room you entered as an adult. And sign number 7. This one explains a pattern in your relationships that you have never been able to understand. Sign 7. You give more than you receive, always. Research shows that children who grow up with emotional neglect develop hypervigilance to other people's emotional needs, constantly monitoring, adjusting, giving. You are the friend everyone calls in crisis, the partner who carries the emotional weight of the relationship, the burden bearer, the one who remembers everyone's birthday, checks in on everyone, shows up for everyone, and quietly wonders why nobody shows up for you the same way. Not because the people in your life are selfish, but because you trained them. You trained them to receive from you, but never asking them to give back. Because asking felt selfish. Because your wants were never the priority. Somewhere in your childhood, you learned that your value was in your usefulness. And you have been proving your value ever since. 7 signs. How many described you? Now I want to give you 3 steps. Step 1. Name what happened. Emotional neglect is a real wound with a real name. You were not too sensitive or too needy. You were a child whose emotional world was not entered by the people who should have known you best. That is emotional neglect. And naming it is the beginning of healing it. Today, give it a name, emotional neglect. Step 2, reparent yourself. The emotional education you did not receive as a child, you can begin to give it to yourself now. Start small. Start this week. Practice naming one feeling per day, not fixing it or managing it. Just name it. I feel happy. I feel lonely. I feel overwhelmed right now. Practice asking for help with one small thing, not a crisis, but something small. Can you help me with this? Can I talk to you about something right now? Practice receiving a compliment without dismissing it. Say thank you and feel good about it. Let it land. These are small acts, but when you repeat them consistently, they begin to rewire your brain. They begin to rewire what emotional neglect installed. Step 3. Let God fill the original void. The deepest wound of emotional neglect is the wound of not being seen, the wound of existing in a home and never being truly known or heard. I want to read you something from Psalm 27, verse 10. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. Not the Lord will eventually get around to you. Not the Lord will receive you when you have healed enough. The Lord will receive me, present tense, right now, exactly as you are, with every sign we discussed today still active in your life, with every wound still present, with every pattern still running. God who created you, his name is Elroy, the God that sees me. He sees the emotional world that your parents could not enter. Guess what? He entered it before you were born, and he has never left it. Let that truth settle in your spirit. Let that truth settle in the places that emotional neglect created. Let it become the new baseline. Because when you are truly seen by God, the desperate need and craving to be seen by everyone else begins to lose its grip. Because you are being seen by the one that matters most. You've carried this weight long enough. Emotional neglect has shaped your story, but it doesn't have to define your future. Research shows breaking one trauma pattern cuts the chance of it repeating by 75% in the next generation. That means the cycle can stop here with you right now. Drop the number of the sign that hit you hardest. Your comment might be the lifeline that someone else has been waiting for. Subscribe for new videos every Thursday. Watch parts 1, 2, and 3 in the description. The cycle ends with you. The legacy begins with you. I am Samuel Abraham. See you next Thursday. Thank you for watching.